I'm someone who loves trying out different makeup looks, but doesn't really wear much on a daily basis, so I like to focus on making sure I have high quality staples. And whether you like a fresh face, full glam, or somewhere in between, you've probably seen Thrive Cosmetics Viral Tubing Mascara. I've certainly seen it everywhere. You know, the one in the turquoise tube? So that mascara, along with all of Thrive Cosmetics beauty products, are certified 100% vegan and cruelty-free, which I look for in makeup, and they've got excellent quality to match. And something I didn't know from all the mascara videos I've seen is that for every product sold, Thrive Cosmetics donates either that same product, another product that is needed more, or a monetary donation. They've worked with over 500 nonprofits to help with a wide range of causes like supporting cancer survivors, people experiencing homelessness, education access, and so much more. Knowing that makes me feel even better about using their products. And I do enjoy using them. Like I said, I like having high quality staples, and so my favorites are products that are multi-purpose, like the Brilliant Eye Brightener. It comes in a bunch of colors, and I like using them as eyeliner, eyeshadow, and even highlighter. Thrive Cosmetics is luxury beauty that gives back. Right now, you can get an exclusive 20% off your first order at thrivecosmetics.com/thrive. That's Thrive Cosmetics, CAUSEMETICS.com/thrive for 20% off your first order. Calling all lovers of mystery and fans of a good story. If you haven't already heard me talk about June's Journey, you're in for a treat. It's time to don your detective hat in this free hidden object mobile game that delves into the captivating journey of June Parker, a self-proclaimed detective on a quest to unravel the mystery surrounding her sister's untimely death. In June's Journey, you get to play as June, deciphering clues and unveiling secret plots within thousands of beautifully illustrated scenes. And did I mention it's set in the glitzy 1920s? New chapters are added weekly, so you will never run out of new thrills to uncover, and you can also personalize and decorate your very own Orchid Island where the story takes place. How sharp are your detective skills? Find out when you download June's Journey on your Android or iOS device, or play online via Facebook Games. Your detective journey awaits.
In 2005, two brothers hit the road to chase demons and fight monsters.
Fighting a couple of angels, too.
And eventually save the world.
A bunch of times. Over 15 years, this series has built one of the most dedicated fan bases in all of entertainment, and that fan base is near and dear to our hearts.
That's right. I'm Rob Benedict. I played Chuck Shirley, a.k.a. God.
And you do a darn good job, too, buddy.
Aw, thanks.
Well, I'm Richard Spade Jr. I played Loki, the Trickster, and Gabriel, and I directed a bunch of episodes.
Wow, is that it?
I directed you. I don't know. What do you think?
Though we worked on the show for years, we never sat down and watched the entire series.
But that was then, and this is now.
That's right. We are watching each episode and inviting the actors, the writers, producers, and crew to join us in digging into the story, the characters, and the mythology.
These guests share some fantastic behind-the-scenes stories with us. You're going to love those, and you're going to get our honest opinion about each and every episode. That's right. Those guests share some fantastic behind-the-scenes stories with us, and each episode gets a full, honest, and unfettered review from Rob and Rich. And you get to learn a little bit about how TV is made. Lord knows we have.
A warning, there are spoilers. And don't get frustrated that we haven't caught details for multiple viewings, or that we know what happens 3 seasons from now. This is the first time we're watching these episodes. And you're there for the ride, as we watch with our virgin eyes.
Oh, that's creepy. Thanks for joining us on our journey as we deepen our understanding about why you love this series so much.
Hey everybody, this is Rob Benedict.
And I'm Richard Spade Jr.
And we're talking about Season 5, Episode 9, The Real Ghostbusters. Who you gonna call?
You ever hear about the lawsuit with that song?
No, please tell us.
They had gone to Huey Lewis and the News to write the theme song, and Huey Lewis and the News was doing the theme song to a different show. I think Back to the Future or something, you know.
Okay.
And so
let's try to wrap the story up in like 15 seconds.
No, they used I Want a New Drug as the temp music all throughout the song.
Okay.
Which is I want a new. And then they hired Ray Parker Jr. to write the theme, and he wrote the theme.
Based on I Want a New Drug.
And when the song came out, Huey Lewis goes, excuse me, Raymond? Sounds a little bit like I Want a New Drug. And they sued him.
And won?
And they got something. That lawsuit was settled out of court for undisclosed amounts of money.
Wow. Wow. That is honestly a story I never heard before. It's really interesting to hear and has absolutely nothing to do with the episode we're about to talk about.
Except for ba-ba.
Bum, ba-da-bum.
Ba-ba-ba.
Hey, we know many of you aren't following the podcast on social, but we really...
What? Wait. We do? I think, why are they not following us on the social, right?
I don't know. Please do. Please. Just follow us on social. Go to...
Dude.
We're at SPN Then and Now on Instagram, on TikTok, and on Twitter. So it's a great way to share this experience with other fans, and you get the latest news about the podcast.
Yeah, it's easy to, you have your favorite episode. It's up there. You just forward it to people. You retweet your own group when you know the show's coming on because you guys all love to talk about Supernatural. I don't get it. Why wouldn't they follow us on the socials?
I don't know. But I'd also like to take this time to call out some people that I met when I was in Europe just now.
By name?
Not by name, but they together they meet. They're a Discord group of fans of the podcast, and they're really sweet people, and they introduced themselves to me, and they made a lot of little SPN Then and Now merch and things like that. So
what city were you in, or what country were you in when you met these fine folks?
I was in Birmingham, United Kingdom.
Nice, awesome. Well, that's cool. Shout out to them,
Birmingham. Yeah.
So we're gonna give a shout out to them and a big shrug with the hands up, to those who aren't following us on the socials.
So. Please follow us on the socials. And now, without further ado,
time to summarize the episode. Robert?
Sam and Dean receive a desperate text from Chuck asking them to come to the Pine View Hotel in Vermilion, Ohio.
Oh my gosh, something serious must have happened then, because Chuck wouldn't just send a desperate text for no reason.
Whoa, okay, I see. Upon arriving, they discover it was a ruse by Supernatural.
A ruse? That's two ruses back to back.
Yeah,
that's a ruse last week and a ruse this week.
Yeah, a lot of ruses.
It's a run on ruses.
It was a ruse by Supernatural fan Becky to get the brothers to come to the first ever Supernatural convention. The hotel is full of Sam and Dean wannabes and lookalikes and people cosplaying as past monsters. There are even a few Bobbies and Ashes. The convention has organized a LARPing game, allowing the attendees to solve a haunting case. However, the story is based on some actual legends about the hotel, and soon the real ghosts start showing up.
Man, they were so annoyed with you when they pulled up.
Yeah.
They'd been driving all night. And by the way, I don't blame them. They drove all night. Dude, I've driven all night. Driving all night stinks.
Yeah, they're pretty mad at me.
Sprinting up, ready to get into some brawl.
Yeah.
And you're standing there.
They're pretty annoyed with me the whole time I'm on the show.
Yeah. I don't mean off camera. I mean on camera.
On camera. Right. Sure. Yeah, no, they are.
But also then, how did Becky have access to your phone?
She stole it out of my pocket, she says.
She says.
Yeah.
I know she says. I got it. But seems a little thin, like maybe you gave her your phone.
No, she took it. I said, "Did you take my phone?" She was like, "Yeah, I took it out of your pocket."
That seems like a ruse.
Okay, no, that's just the real.
Look, I don't want to get in the middle of your guys' relationship, but I'm just saying that seems a little like, I know you have a thing for her. Maybe she said, "Hey, Carver, you got to let me use your phone," or and you're like, "I don't want to." And she's like, "Just say I took it out of your phone."
She doesn't call me Carver. She calls me Chuck. So.
Oh, she didn't call you by your nom de plume?
No. Isn't that funny? All the fake Sam and Deans, and they're like, "Hey, nice one." It's pretty funny.
It's genius.
Yeah.
So clever.
Yeah.
I mean, the second they walk into the lobby of that hotel.
Yeah.
And I have seen this one before. And as soon as it started, I'm like, oh, I've seen this one.
It's funny that they do this one back to back with changing channels is funny to me because
it's kind of risky in a way.
It is. It's really two similar episodes in terms of, taking away the fourth wall and,
going off the reservation a little bit. Yeah. I thought it was super clever and could have easily sucked because of they took a risk.
Yeah.
And it's so good.
Yeah.
So good.
No, it was really, really great. I mean, at this point too, this is one of those episodes where Kripke's kind of winking at the fans and, commenting about real things that are going on in reality at this point.
I mean, how great is the first questioner in your panel who's German.
Yeah, and he said follow up.
Yeah. And he's like, if you don't like the show, don't watch it, Fritz.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I love that.
But he's like, why do you not have bungees for their guns? I mean, it really is clever, the writing. Very clever.
Yeah. So as several fake Winchesters go about the hotel investigating the case, the real Sam and Dean interview the real hotel manager who tells them the story of Letitia Gore, who ran an orphanage in the building long before it became a hotel. Legend has it she killed 4 young boys, then herself. 2 convention attendees, Barnes and Damien. So one of these guys, the shorter of the two, did you recognize him?
No, I mean, I actually recognize the taller guy, but I didn't recognize the shorter guy.
Yeah, he's recognizable too. But the shorter guy was in Home Alone. Played Buzz, his brother Buzz in Home Alone.
That would have been before this.
Yes, sir. It would have been.
Dude, he's so good.
Yeah,
those
awesome.
two dudes are phenomenal. Like I don't know their name. We'll look
Devin
them up right
Devin Rattray is his name, and Ernie Grunwald I think is the other one.
They're both so perfect in their roles.
They're really great. They're really, really great. So yeah, I always thought that. We talked about that on set when he told me that, and I was like, oh man, that's classic.
I mean, does that mean he was in every single one?
I think so. As much as the family was, yeah.
That's a good gig.
So Barnes and Damien insist on going with Sam and Dean to the cemetery to burn the bones, thinking it's fake and part of the game. Once at the cemetery, Sam and Dean start digging up the body. Barnes and Damien freak out when they realize it's a real corpse. Suddenly, a ghost appears and is about to rip out their hearts, but Sam and Dean burn the corpse bones, vanquishing it and saving Barnes and Damien.
Oh, man. Thank goodness. I didn't want those dudes to die. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted them to stick around.
Yeah. We've grown accustomed to them now. So back at the hotel, Sam and Dean encounter the ghost of Letitia's son.
Right.
It is revealed that the 3 other boys are evil, and the ghost of Letitia was keeping them under control, but now she's gone.
Oh, boise.
I laughed out loud when Dean said to the one, what does he say? Something about the boy getting his head cut.
Oh, who gave you that? The high and tight?
Yeah.
Dude, I laughed out loud at that too.
Yeah.
He's like, maybe, why'd you take where'd my mommy go? Or
yeah.
I miss my mommy. Like, hey, she's the one who gave you that high and tight.
Yeah.
Thank you. I thought that was really funny.
They're really funny. Also, the 3 evil ghost boys remind me scarily of your 3 sons.
Of you. It's so funny. I literally, especially the short one in the middle, I'm like, little creepy kid, Rob Benedict, little creepy kid. You know?
Back at the hotel, Sam and Dean encounter the ghost of Letitia's son. It is revealed that the 3 other boys are evil, and the ghost of Letitia was keeping them under control, but now she's gone. The evil ghost boys lock everyone in the hotel. Sam and Dean get chucked to keep everyone distracted while they try to deal with the ghosts. The brothers solicit the help of the actress playing the Letitia ghost for the convention to try and trick the evil ghost boys. However, it backfires, and right before the ghosts close in on Sam and Dean, they disappear. Barnes and Damien were able to burn the bones of the evil boys. Did you like the part where I was on stage?
Well, I was going to ask. I was going to ask you that we got to the end of it or whatever. But like, is that all improv, or is any of that?
No, actually, on the last page of the script, Kripke wrote, "Have Rob say these things," and he had like 10 little bullet point little fun things, and he was like, "And have him riff if he wants to riff." So I would just like say,
"You made up beaches." That was you.
Maybe I can't remember. I made up half of them. But
you made up beaches. You also I know another one you made up. I was like, oh, Rob made that one up.
Maybe the virginity one I might have made up. Losing my virginity, but then she went out telling everybody it didn't count.
Okay.
Oh, the Croatoan virus down there.
Yeah, that felt like
I feel like that was Kripke. I feel like that was scripted because I didn't know enough about
any joke
Croatoan.
that has you doing the down there.
The down there, yeah,
like you.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing about these writers too, and Kripke in general. Like they got us. They got our rhythm really well. You know what I mean?
Dude, I loved this episode. I mean, I know we're not reviewing per se yet, but
sure. Well, let me just finish, and then we can.
It's just so funny.
So later, Sam and Dean are leaving the hotel. Barnes and Damien inspire the brothers by telling them how important and cool it is to be Sam and Dean. Then it kind of is revealed that they're lovers. They're really sweet when he leans his head on his shoulder. Becky tells Sam and Dean about an important detail in one of Chuck's books. Bella gave the colt to a demon named Crowley. At the time, of course, I did not realize who that would be or what that meant because that hasn't happened yet. But
hello, Rob.
Exactly.
Hello, Rob.
Exactly. So there you go.
Okay. So much great here. We could really go into all of the people. And you walk in and the Scarecrow's like, "Hey, Sam and Dean,
yeah, totally. Yeah,
I'm in trouble." Like,
And
the ash mullets everywhere. I love it when Dean sees the yellow-eyed demon like talking. Blah,
yeah,
blah, 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 blah.
totally. Yeah.
I mean, it's so well directed. It's
Yeah.
so well acted by everybody. If they had one line, or if they were you, meaning like the big lead of the show, it was just great. The two guys. Tell me the two guys' names, Ernie and.
This is going to be Ernie and Devin.
Ernie and Devin are absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, they really are.
They are a perfect blend of being, the character Sam and Dean and being funny, and then when they have to be really scared, it seems genuine, and they're really sentimental at the end. They're really sentimental. I also thought the kid that we only see for one real scene or two scenes, where he sees the fake or the actress mom, and then he's the first guy to see the apparition of the kid, and he's like,
that guy's good. Yeah,
he did a great job.
Yeah. And like you said, the guy with the German accent.
Oh, so funny.
Which I can't remember if he was putting that on or not. He might have been, but he was. I remember thinking like, this is a funny dude. Yeah, it was. And I have to say, I had not been to a convention yet at this point, so I didn't even know what that world was. This was new to me. But obviously, Kripke was commenting on the things that were starting to happen, which is that there was a convention world that was starting around this show. But it was super fun that the drinks are named after the characters.
Oh, I thought it was so funny. She's like, I got you the yellow-eyed swirly or something.
Yeah. And like the guy who's sort of like with the ascot who's kind of running the convention, he's talking about, he was like, okay, Jagger or okay, McCartney and Lennon.
Every time it's like, he goes McCartney and Lennon, and then Jagger and Richards.
Yeah. But it's just like giving a comment on the show itself. It's just genius. I love the way this show did that.
I thought it was so clever, so well done. Again, just Tim DeStern, so well written and just interesting and clever. And no one really knew what conventions were back then. It tackled a world that was unbeknownst to all of us, or most people, unless they were con goers. But it was still very niche, and they sort of played into the nicheness of it back then. You know what I mean?
True, but like you had been to one by this point.
No, I know, but we were all sort of getting like. The audience was discovering it, as were the actors who were in the show. And
100%.
we're like, it wasn't a common thing. What's the one thing, see if you picked up on it, the one massive difference between their version of a convention and
there were
conventions?
Way too many dudes.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Reverse that gender.
Yeah.
It's all girls and maybe
all
one
women.
dude versus all dudes and one girl.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's a fair amount of cosplaying at our cons.
100%. Oh, there's so many Castiels, please.
Yeah. But yeah, cool.
And Emily Perkins, let's not skip over
her.
Oh,
man, Emily Perkins.
What a home run hitter. Come bounding down the stairs in that
she's so sweet.
First scene with Sam.
So funny.
Where did we see her last?
She was at one of the conventions that we were at.
No, not you and me, the show.
Oh, she was definitely in an episode where I call her.
Yeah, because she references having Sam on the brain,
Yeah. I call her and have her do something for me because she's a super fan and she does something. She helps me get something. In some episode, we established that she's a super fan and she helps me go and, Anyway, so she's amazing. I love working with Emily, and fortunately I got to work with her all the way in season 15. But she's super fun.
She's so great. It's just another color and a really great palette of colors in this episode. So good. Well, I mean, I guess here we are. We're talking about it. You might as well get into Rob and Rich ratings.
So what do you think, Chief?
Not a fan. I don't think it worked on any level. I'm kidding. It's a great episode. It may be one of my favorite I've seen. I just thought the guys playing Sam and Dean and all of the different versions of Sam and Dean, it was so clever and done. Again, we laugh at it now. We go, whatever. Dangerous. They could have really shot themselves in the foot. They could have accidentally insulted fans. They could have been too campy.
Yeah.
We could have not bought it.
Yeah.
Jared and Jensen lean into playing it so honestly that it just works really, really well.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
I agree.
And you're great. I mean, the neurotic Chuck, it's weird. Your character's so weird because he has all this power, but he doesn't know, like, it's just sort of this accidental power. Like at this phase, he's just churning out these books that he has to put out, but at the same time, he also feels overpowered by his own books. It's a trip.
Yeah.
Very complex character.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, I feel like it was really well written, and like the show's hitting a real stride right now. Every episode's really
and then you got mad at people like Euro Rob, and suddenly the chicks dug you, you know?
What?
When you go, I said, don't leave the room.
Oh, yeah. And that's how I
Salt
get
the damn doors.
Yeah.
Don't maybe say it again.
Yeah.
Don't maybe come over there.
Yeah.
Oh, so help me.
Yeah.
And then suddenly Emily's like, fiddling with her collarbone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. She's fiddling with her collar. She likes it.
Yeah. And I said collarbone in air quotes, if you know what I mean.
Actually,
it was her collarbone.
James Conway.
Who's that?
He's the director.
Okay.
He directed this episode, Rich.
Great job.
Jimmy Conway. Yeah, did a great job. And I remember him saying like that's, and it might have been in the script this way too, but it was like, that's your hero moment. And that was a big deal for me. Like I finally he gave me a hero angle from the bottom. Kind of looking it up.
Did.
I remember that very well. I also remember there's a thing where I'm like, don't open that door. And my hand is sort of like down here. And I remember specifically, they just said my hand was blocking my face in the camera. So I put it down here and it just doesn't look natural when I do it. I
didn't notice.
Yeah. You see me go like, don't. You see me
when
like.
You say it doesn't look natural, does it look supernatural?
It looks supernatural. Looks like a fake hand. All right. So what are you gonna give it? I'm
gonna steal a page from you from last week because I was gonna give it to Stapleton, but I'm not. I'm gonna get a 1976 Loggins and Messina, almost Jesus era Kenny Loggins.
Wow, that's great. I am going to give it. I give it to Jesus.
Jesus. Loggins and Jesus. Great.
It's a great band, Loggins and Jesus. It's fun to do. It's a really fun episode, and happy to be a part of it.
I wish we had somebody interesting to interview about it.
Well, we have two great interviews today. One of them is with the one and only Eric Kripke, creator of Supernatural.
Legend.
I
said it. Legend.
Who wrote this episode. And the other's with James L. Conway, who directed the episode.
Crushed it. I said it. He crushed it.
Yeah, he absolutely did. So, two crushers. So let's get into our conversation with Eric. Well, once again, we have with us Eric Kripke, creator of Supernatural, executive producer, and friend.
Yes.
Hi, Eric.
Hi, guys.
And by the way, getting a sit down with you is like having coffee with Sasquatch. You know what I mean? Like it's not easy to catch. So
because of my smell.
That's right.
Exactly.
From your lips, man.
And all that hair.
It's because of my smell, body hair, and my predilection of
your fondness for pooping in the woods. Exactly right.
Yeah.
So the real Ghostbusters, which you wrote.
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit how it says a story by Nancy Weiner.
Mm-hmm.
How did the idea come from her?
Nancy was a writer's assistant, and we encouraged anyone to, if they have an idea, pitch it, and we just want to hear it. And everyone was really enamored with Monster at the end of the book, and the ability that Chuck and the Supernatural books allowed us to, in a very direct way, explore our own asses, just get right up our own assholes, just as far up our own assholes as we could possibly get. And if memory serves, she pitched, we should send Sam and Dean to a Supernatural convention, which, as you guys well know, are quite the event, quite the to-do.
Yeah.
And even then, they were in the early years, they were really starting to happen.
Yeah. And
I was so fascinated and blown away by just the phenomenon of them. That the idea of sending Sam and Dean to a place that's just filled with people cosplaying as Sam and Dean was just...
It's genius.
It's really genius and such a fun idea. Yeah.
Yeah. They pull in as, with baby, and they're like three other babies.
Yeah, exactly. Which were the other ones.
Yeah.
Those were the other babies.
Yeah, of course.
And it's just Transpo just pulled out all the babies we worked with and put them all next to each other.
Amazing.
It's such a clever idea. And in conventions, obviously, have been around for a long time. But I don't think, maybe I'm wrong, but I remember at the time, conventions I thought of them as Star Trek things, and that's it. Right now, they're much more popular than they were, and they're much more commonplace than they were. And they cover many more shows than they did back in the day. So the newness of the Supernatural convention circuit, along with Sam and Dean's sort of naive, entree into that world, kind of running in parallel in a way that I thought was really, really cool in a time capsule kind of way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. It's like the birth of a new phenomenon. And if I remember correctly, I mean, it was, as usual, Ben Edlund, who I remember breaking the story with. And if I remember correctly, it was like just me and him alone in a room for a lot of it, because, other writers were off doing other things. And it was his idea to say they should be on a hunt that is part of the convention, like a murder mystery hunt, so that they're going on with all the other cosplayers doing all the other beats that Sam and Dean always do, that they're confronted with, like beat for beat for beat, until only our characters realize that it's really happening.
Yeah.
And that is, it just adds like a whole other level of meta to it, because it's not just the setting, it's actually the story is a fan service, fan fiction story that is happening, that our characters are interacting with, only to realize that, it's a real thing.
Yeah. Were there, like, I always say that there in episodes like this, you're almost having a dialogue with the fans in a way, like, because you'll read what people were tweeting about or whatever at that time. I remember that Twitter was a part of it. That's true, right? There's just a little bit of like, there's conversation going on.
Yeah, I mean, we, from the beginning, and part of it, like what I was saying when we were talking about changing channels, like I'm just fascinated by meta and commenting on the thing you're doing while you're doing it, and just like all of those layers is just fun for me. I just enjoy. I enjoy watching stuff that breaks the fourth wall. I think it's just a really interesting way to use the format, and we were, I think, unique among shows at that time, and like really in as you said, just in an ongoing dialogue with the audience. Yeah, they would criticize something, and then we would respond, and then they would respond to that, and then we would, and so it was just this ongoing conversation that now, and this was before a lot of social media. I mean, this was like we were getting what I remember at that time is almost all of my information from the fans was coming from chat rooms. Right. But the idea of like true social media, which we have now, which is the interplay is so quick and fast between the creators and the audience. And so the idea of even being in regular communication with your audience was just a new idea,
a novelty.
And people would say to me all the time, like, why are you talking to your fans through the show? What are you doing? And like, you just present it to them and don't, but, and now obviously it's all anyone does. And so I think one of the reasons we ended up with such a huge fandom from a show that was like punching above its weight class is because we always brought them in to our own process and literally made them part of the creative experience of it.
Yeah.
And new.
Amazing.
I mean, that's kind of groundbreaking.
Yeah. It was a new idea.
I would imagine.
I can't say we didn't know what we were doing at the time. We just thought it was entertaining. But we stumbled into a thing that really became, I don't want to say that we invented social media, but I don't want to not say it.
Right.
You certainly took advantage of that dialogue that was emerging and said, ooh, we can be a part of this.
Yeah.
And without risking the show. I mean, we talked about in changing channels, and same is true here. There's such a fine line. Rich said earlier, he was like, you took the swing and it could have failed.
Yeah.
Especially with this episode, and it didn't.
Yeah.
And so you're riding that fine line, and still you can go to a very serious moment and it still works.
Right. Yeah. And I give Ben Edlund a lot of credit for that. And he's, really well known and justifiably so for like all of these crazy swings. But what I think he doesn't get enough credit for is how incredibly disciplined he is with rules and character. And he would always be the first one to say, but the character wouldn't do that, or that's not what the rules of the universe that you created are. And he's, for someone who can be so, out there, he really drills down And because he does, because the rules aren't necessarily logical, but they're always internally consistent. And because of that, you can get away with something insane and then segue to an emotional moment and then have those who were cosplaying as
who were
Sandy.
great.
So good. So good.
Yeah,
I
love
loved
those
them
guys.
throughout the entire episode. They were two actors who work all the time, and you immediately like them the second you see them. And then what they do so well is they play the joke, but then they get out of the joke. Right. And which is, again, that's a nimble skill, man. Like, they did a great job with that.
It really is. Yeah. Yeah. At the end, the one guy, the shorter of the two, in a very serious moment, tells Dean why the brothers are so important to him. And it's totally, you buy it.
Yeah. And like what it means and not just having, obviously we're having fun with the idea of super fans, but also wanting to convey like, oh, but this means something to them, and here's why, and giving the fans the nod of like, we understand, we see what you see in it, and we love that stuff too.
Yes, exactly.
That had to be fascinating from a fan standpoint in that time frame, because you're talking about it from a show creator and writer standpoint. We're like, we would dialogue, but imagine you're on the other end of that computer terminal, and Ben Edlund answers your message, or Eric Kripke, or the show in general. And you're like,
or you see it in the episode, and you're like, oh my God, that's what I was talking about. That's
exactly. Like, exactly. We were making a joke, and you guys made a reference to one of the chat room regulars.
Right.
And just showing that we're reading it through, because every so often we would say like, oh, this person has a real problem with the show or with the books. That's what made the books so great and you so great. And that person would be a real person in the chat rooms who was always shitting on the show. And then that would tell people like, oh my God, they're reading it.
Yeah. Be careful what you write, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying the episode, but we need to pull over because I got a tinkle.
As a podcast network, our first priority has always been audio and the stories we're able to share with you. But we also sell merch, and organizing that was made both possible and easy with Shopify. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell and grow at every stage of your business, from the launch your online shop stage all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. They have an all-in-one e-commerce platform and in-person POS system, so wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. With the internet's best converting checkout, 36% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms, Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers. Shopify has allowed us to share something tangible with the podcast community we've built here, selling our beanies, sweatshirts, and mugs to fans of our shows without taking up too much time from all the other work we do to bring you even more great content. And it's not just us. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US. Shopify is also the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/realm, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/REALM now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/realm. You can shop from anywhere doing pretty much anything. You might shop while working, eating, or even listening to this podcast. And however you shop, we all know and love the thrill of the hunt. But do you also know how to get the thrill of the best deals? Because Rakuten shoppers do. With Rakuten, they get the deals they love with the most savings and cash back. And you can get it too. Start getting cash back at your favorite stores like Sephora, Nike, and even Expedia if you're looking to get some travel in. And getting cash back doesn't mean you have to miss out on sales, because those can just be stacked right on top. It's easy to use and based on a simple idea. Stores pay Rakuten for sending them shoppers, and Rakuten shares the money with you as cash back through PayPal or check. Download the free Rakuten app and never miss a deal. Or go to Rakuten.com to start getting the most bang for your buck. That's Rakuten.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. And now back to the episode.
Did you worry at all about doing, because I noticed watching these episodes back to back in preparation for today, 508, changing channels is obviously a massively different world. But this is also, I noticed usually the show would do a massively different world and then go back to their other world, go back to the grand world.
Yes.
This was two.
Yeah.
Two kind of, not
Back to
similar,
back.
but not dissimilar either, departures from the norm.
No, I distinctly remember worrying about that. And my memory is Bob was really worried about it because he is, the member of the team who's not a fucking nerd. And, and so he helps really ground us. And I don't remember why it worked out that way. It might have just been I would have to guess, like, maybe that was just the story that was far enough along. I mean, my guess is in our normal world, we would not put those two episodes next to each other.
Right.
So something externally happened that made us have to do that.
Do you recall a conversation about even once they're shot, airing them differently, like changing the air dates?
No, because there's usually like whatever piece of
Right.
mythology or little bits that are in there usually speak to the right order. That once you get them in the can, you can't move them around too much.
Right. Also, you have that. We haven't watched a couple of the episodes coming up, but I know that there's a lot of episodes this season where big things happen. You introduce Crowley, you still have Lucifer.
Yeah.
Their archangels, the signs of death, the horsemen. So there's a lot to get to.
Yeah, and this was. I mean, I knew at this point that this was going to be sort of my plan was anyway for this to be my final run,
last season.
And so it's really heading towards a lot of the ideas I was going to put into a finale if I was allowed to write one, and so there was quite a lot to get to. So I also know that like the middle of the season is when you take your crazy swings. Because as you're heading into the end game, you really got to start screwing down on mythology, and this one more than usual because of how I wanted to climax it.
Right.
So that might have been another reason.
Sure. For this episode, I have a question that says, did you fly up for it? I can't remember. Did you fly up for this episode?
I was not up for this episode.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
No.
But you were very much there. I remember I feel like we had you on the phone for a couple of questions because I have this montage at the end where I'm saying all these things on stage.
Yeah.
And I remember the script had a last page.
Right.
There was options of things to say on stage.
Yeah. Just this long page of just improv prompts.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So it's exactly what they were. They were improv prompts. We have another question. Was it improv or scripted? It was scripted with ... at the end of the line,
Oh, for sure.
That was super fun to do.
One thing I remember about that episode that I like, and again, it's all Ben. I'm just there to take Ben's dictation. But the notion of the ghost at the end, and it was the kids, right? It was the kids, and that the problem was it was like those creepy kids. You think it's the woman, but really it's the creepy kids, right?
Right.
We needed to like set a trap for them. I'm like, how do we set a trap? And it was Ben who was like, you have a woman there who's literally dressed as the ghost. Why don't you bring her out and you're utilizing the cosplayers to be crucial to your real scene? And I just remember thinking, I just vividly have memory of like, that's so fucking brilliant, Ben. Like, obviously, like it's so obvious in hindsight that you use this girl who, if I remember correctly, a call out to my hometown. I think she like worked at a Hooters.
Right, that was her comment.
She works at Hooters. Yeah,
she's like, I work at you're an actress. She's like, I work at a Hooters in Toledo.
That's so funny.
And bringing her out. The other thing I remember too is, and this is what I really loved because we got so mythology heavy in those later years that the core of the show was always like real life urban legends. And this was one of the last times, at least under my tenure, that we did a real life urban legend. That Gore Orphanage is a real scary story and a real ghost story that's really out there about a bunch of kids that burned in an orphanage fire, and that their kid ghosts are wandering around making mischief. And so to be able to, like, in one of my I think that was like the last self-enclosed episode I wrote. So to be able to, trot out some of that early vibe of the show, and when we're like paying an homage to the fans and the history of the show, that like to trot out really one of our early styles,
right,
and then make a meta commentary on it was really, I remember that being really
awesome.
fun.
Is the orphanage now a hotel in real life?
I very much doubt that.
Here's a question for you, Robert. You mentioned earlier in this podcast you had not done a supernatural convention before you did this episode, correct?
Right.
But
yes,
now looking at the facts, you did your first supernatural convention 2 days after you shot this episode?
I think it was 2 days after the episode aired. That's my memory. At least that's
But that had to feel meta in reverse. Like you did the episode about being on stage with fans, and then you get up on stage at a convention full of fans to talk about the episode of you being on stage talking about fans or talking to fans.
Yes. And I was terrified, just like the character is really nervous in front of them in the episode. I'm terrified. It's in Chicago. I think it was a year after your first one in Chicago. And I was terrified. And it was like, what is real? What's fiction? Like this it was so wild. Really, really bizarre.
By the way, I looked it up.
Yes.
The legend claims that in 1800s Vermilion, Ohio, in Lorain County, northern Ohio, near Toledo, a fire was set which killed many children and one woman whose ghosts now haunt the ruins.
Wow.
Gore Orphanage. Yeah.
Wow. So it's the ruins.
And in Wikipedia, it says, in popular culture, it says season 5, episode 9 of the television show
Yeah.
Takes place at a fictitious hotel built atop the ruins of Gore Orphanage in Vermilion.
I'll tell you,
we made it.
The name Gore Orphanage is unfortunate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like Blood and Guts Hospital. I'm not sure why. Nothing bad happened here.
And how great is Emily Perkins, who plays the super fan?
Yeah.
And my girlfriend, she was awesome.
Becky,
right?
Yeah,
Becky. Yeah.
Oh man, she's so funny and great. And I mean, that's a character who, again, we wrote for a one-off.
Yeah.
And she's so funny, but like her rapport with you and like your sort of straight man thing, and her like all over the map, energy and devotion and enthusiasm. So it's like your dryness versus her like enthusiasm. It was just gold. And there's certain people who you see them and they just make themselves undeniable that, oh, we need to do more with that character. That's insane. Like that she took something that was just meant to be like a throwaway couple scenes and turned it into a character that bring her on as much as we can.
Yeah. So fun. It was so fun to work with her.
On that subject of the characters of this episode, all of whom are so good, was the guy, the hook hand guy, was that written to be German? Was he written to be German?
I don't remember that.
Because he's so funny the way he plays it.
Really funny.
I mean, it might be a German actor or somebody doing an accent, but it's hilarious in the way she's like, if you don't like the show, don't watch it, Fritz. But his whole accent adds to the character so much that I didn't know if it was like you found that guy at auditions, like, that's the guy, or if you wrote it like that.
No, if I remember correctly, we wrote the German accent into the show, but I have no idea why.
Well, it works.
All the hands go up and his hook goes up when they ask questions.
I mean, I can tell you that Hookman was a shit show to make, and so I'm sure whatever we were doing, we were
lampooning that somehow.
Lampooning that in somehow that I don't remember, but that was a painful one to make. There's lots of reshoots. It's just very like
really. I don't know if we knew that at the
season
time.
1.
Yeah.
Season 1.
Yeah.
This is not in this episode, but why did you put Bobby in a wheelchair this season?
I think we wanted to give him a problem that felt like real, and I mean, the conversation I remember having was, only in television can your characters be shot in the shoulder as much as our characters are shot in the shoulder. And they're like, it's okay. I was only shot in the shoulder. And whereas in reality, like, that's the end of any mobility. That's at least a year and a half of physical therapy.
Totally.
But every other episode, they're like, you okay? He's like, yeah. I just got shot point blank in the shoulder. So fine.
Now let's go infiltrate that tennis camp and find out.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I think the notion of like, well, let's give them something that is real, and if I remember correctly at the time, there was not plans to get him out of the wheelchair. Originally we were like, okay, he's in a wheelchair now. And then I think we got him out because it was just such a pain in the ass.
Yeah, he can't do that for 10 more seasons.
So hard to frame,
exactly.
Sitting and
especially when you cast the world's tallest guys as Sam and Dean. I mean,
I know.
That does not make an easy frame.
Yeah, I mean, Jared is, most people don't know this, but Jared is 7'3".
I know. It's just...
and they keep it
That's
quiet.
In flats, and he never wears flats. He's always in some kind of backstrapless
It's so
pump.
weird that he wears those pumps. I mean, it's so strange to be insecure when you're
I know.
7'3", but he wants to be.
I asked him about it. He said it makes him feel classy. I don't know. Like, it's his call.
He likes what it does to his calves.
Exactly.
At the end of this episode, you do. We mentioned Crowley is coming. You kind of plant the seed that Crowley's coming.
Yeah.
At this point, is Mark Sheppard cast, or did you just know you're going to introduce this character of Crowley?
I don't remember whether Mark was cast or not by then, but the idea of that particular demon, king of the crossroads demon, like we're broken ahead in certain episodes, so we know. I don't remember. I mean, I think Mark was cast when it was time to do the episode, right. And then we just like lucked into like yet another genius at what he was doing, and that scene where he like deeply kisses that old man, and what an entrance! Like what a brilliant entrance, and I've given credit to it in the past, but the book Good Omens, which I think has been mentioned on this show a bunch too, that the demon Crowley that in that book, like, that Neil Gaiman, co-wrote is like our Crowley was a 1-to-1 ripoff of that character. Like just like a funny, suave, and now that people can see that show, you can see how, I mean, they don't look alike, but how similar those characters are in that sort of like decadent, fun, kind of witty, acidic way.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Here's one last thing I remember about this episode, which was completely unexpected. We got like a commendation from GLAAD for the real Ghostbusters.
Oh, wow.
Because the two guys at the end, we revealed that they were in a romantic relationship.
Oh, that's
we actually
cool.
commented on that, talking about it, how well that was played and handled by those two actors and in the story.
Yeah. I mean, and like, obviously we are like carnies. So to get like that sort of
nod
recognition was like, we're like, what? Are we classy?
The Good Housekeeping seal. What the F?
Yeah, like, ooh, I don't like that we're respectable.
We're good people?
Are we good people? Like, we have to stop.
I gotta scrub myself with a loofah. Well, that's cool, man. There's so much great about this episode. But gosh, this whole conversation, I mean, we've just done a deep dive on everything, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Can't thank you enough, Eric.
Yeah, no, super fun, guys. Always great talking to you.
That was Eric Kripke, everybody, and that was
dude. You can't go higher on the mountain than the very, very top. You know what I mean?
And a treat to be able to talk to him as always, and really go to the source and get the real answers to all the questions.
Get the real answers, the unfiltered answers, none of this filtered crap.
Mm-hmm. And now on to our conversation with director James L. Conway. Such a treat today that in addition to talking to Eric, we have James L. Conway, who directed this episode. He goes by Jamie. Hello, Jamie. Welcome.
Thanks, Rob. Nice to be here.
Yeah, nice to have you. So this episode obviously is one of my favorites.
But it's a classic. It's not just a classic Rob Benedict episode. It's a classic episode overall. Like just one of the greats.
Great. Yeah, it was great. I knew it when I first read the script. I said, this is fantastic.
Yeah, great. And so this is your third episode of Supernatural. Were you aware that there was this swelling fandom building that we're adding to these conventions and things like that?
Yes, because the guys left to do a convention, I think in the previous episode when I was working, and I had to clear them like finish on the Thursday so they could be gone Friday and Saturday and come back.
Oh, wow.
And so, yes, I was very aware of it. And I was thrilled for them because I know how popular they were. It's only good for the popularity of a show as those things start. So, yeah, I was very aware.
Yeah.
And I love the irony that the show was sort of paying homage to the fans who were doing that and to Sam and Dean.
It was amazing. It really was. And like I told you off air, like at my first convention was right after this episode aired, and it was really wild for me to sort of then experience it in real life, and not too different. I was just as nervous as my character is. And so the script was written by Eric Kripke. Were you aware? Was he more involved than normal, or in what capacity did you work with him?
There's always a very complex tone meeting where you go through it scene by scene. And whenever the showrunner is the one who writes the script, as the director, you are paying a whole lot of attention because you're going to make sure that you please him every single scene. So we talked about each scene in depth, and I think I did deliver what he was looking for.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, this is a complex one too, because comedy is hard. And this is a comedic episode, but within the framework of the comedic episode is the drama of this finding the monster who's tormenting the people in the hotel. So there's a lot of balancing going on in this sequence. You want to speak to that?
Yeah, the key guest stars, which were Devin and Ernie, who played Sam and but they played. I think Darren and Barnes.
They're so great, by the way. They're so hilarious.
So good.
Great. And Devin, who's naturally a comic, his instinct was to play things a little bit bigger than I would want, because with secret to comedy in a show like this is you have to play completely real, let the humor speak for itself. Don't try to improve it. Don't try to make it funny. And once he understood that, he nailed it. So there was such a great sense of authenticity to their performances, and you believe them, and you had sympathy for them. And in the whole time, it's hysterically funny.
Yeah.
Well, that was a good note because they are super, even to us viewers who weren't there when it was made, it's super funny. But you believe that they believe where they are.
Yes.
Like they are true to what the scenario is, so you're not taken out by the joke, if that makes any sense.
Right. And I also love the fact that you learn at the end that they're partners, and the moment, and this was Ernie's improv, where he just put his head on Devin.
Yes.
It's so adorable. It's so sweet.
It's really sweet. It's very genuine, man.
Yes, and I think it happened while we were shooting. I'm not sure it was rehearsed or not, but all I know is it was adorable, and I just loved it. And we shot it. It was one of the last things we shot, so it wasn't. Yeah, they had been able to work together, form a relationship, spend all that time off camera together. I'm sure they were running lines constantly, so they became quite bonded. And so I think one reason it became so authentic at the end.
Wow, so good.
I remember working with two specific things. I remember working with you on my hero moment where I take the microphone stand and I kill the ghost. I remember, you taking me aside and saying like, this is Chuck's hero moment, because a lot of things with Chuck were sort of funny and quirky and not heroic. Right. But here I got a hero angle and, really got to take my time and be that guy. And obviously, Emily Perkins' reaction to that is hilarious.
Yes.
Emily Perkins is another powerful comedic force in this episode,
amazing,
man.
She's so funny.
She's so funny.
And then I also remember working with you on the outtakes that wound up being the outtakes, but sort of like stalling on stage, and what you guys kind of let me go a little bit. That Eric had prompts in the script, and then I could sort of go off and riff on them, and that was
hysterical. I mean, we all just gathered around and watched you go.
Yeah, it was fun, and again, a rare thing as a guest star to sort of get that leverage to do that, get the opportunity to do that,
and then for Eric to put it in at the end of the episode so everyone to see that, I thought was really a tribute to how much he admired your work.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was a real treat.
Another challenge in this episode, comedically, while we're on the comedy theme, is you have a scenario that is about fans. Fans are the lifeblood of a show like this, and conventions are a lifeblood of a show like this because it gives fans an opportunity to gather together. So there's a lot of comedy being mined here about conventions, but it's a delicate line to walk because you can't make fun of people who attend conventions because they're not the joke, right? How was that balance to find when making this episode?
Well, all the fans are absolutely earnest, and the ones who come across as the bumblers are the boys because they don't really understand what's going on there. Everyone else is totally committed, and they're the ones sort of stumbling around in the beginning, getting tricked and fooled by the fans when they are starting to do the first LARP stuff. And Sam and Dean are just completely confused by it. So they're the ones who are sort of made fun of. The fans are authentic and genuine and committed, and that's how it is in real life. These guys, they love the show, and we would never make fun of them. So it is that delicate balance, and it was done, I thought, beautifully.
Oh, done so great, and everybody is so funny. And I referenced this when Robin and I were talking about the episode at the beginning of this podcast, but the German fan Fritz just cracks me up. Like every time we see that dude, he's hilarious.
Yeah. Even from the first time we see him and don't see him, and referring to is when everyone raises their hand.
Yeah, exactly.
And the hook comes up.
It's so great.
Yeah.
And then the other kid who gets swung around the room and knocked into all the bookshelves, and when he's leaving, like Sam and Dean say something to him, and he's like, "I'm not playing the game, you jerks." Like
Right.
he's the irony that everybody thinks that those guys are just wannabe Sam and Deans as well is hilarious.
Until right through the very end. I mean, they keep it straight up until the end. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. The Fritz, the guy who played Fritz, made me laugh on set. I remember it was really funny the way he says, "Und follow up." He has a follow up question.
Yes. Even
Yeah. It was so funny. So
yeah.
This is your third episode of Supernatural.
Yes.
And then we know you do one coming up in 5/11 because we're going to talk to you about that as well. But how did you end up being a part of the Supernatural family? How did you arrive to the show?
I was a big fan of the show, and I had done Charm for 8 years, and it was finished. And so I reached out to Bob Singer, who was a friend of mine. We used to share office suites next to each other at Warner Brothers.
It's amazing.
He was working on the show, obviously, and I knew Kim Manners because we came up together at Spelling many years before. And so I said I'd love to do the show. And I was in Vancouver directing something, and Bob was there. So I said, let's get together so I want to play golf together. And during that golf game, we sort of agreed that we'd get to do an episode. That's what I did. I did the episode, first one, which I'm blanking on the name now, but it's a wonderful, it's a terrible life.
That is just a flippin' dope Hollywood story.
Rich, we got to get better at golf.
I know. I got to get better at golf and got to get closer to Bob. Got to get invited to the golf course.
Bob was a really good golfer. I was not. So we got the job.
I've golfed with Bob. It's I
golfed with Bob. It was very intimidating because I'm not a great
on another
golfer.
level. Yeah, same.
That's awesome. What a cool, like I said, very sort of classic Hollywood entree into a legendary TV show, and what a legendary episode of the series this is. It's just one of the great ones. So. Thanks. Kudos, man, because you nailed the drama, you nailed the comedy. So it's just really great. Well done.
I had a great time doing it, and I knew while we were doing it, it was going to turn out to be such a good show. And it is one of my favorite TV shows I've ever directed. So,
that's great.
That's awesome.
That's sweet.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for being here. We really appreciate your time, and I know we're going to see you again for another interview for another episode. But for now, this is our time with you for episode 509, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Hey, this is Jeffrey Dean Morgan. We are going to take a quick break. Hey, it's Jeffrey Dean Morgan again. Welcome back to the podcast.
Man, dude, that's a 1-2 punch of greatness right there. I mean, you get Kripke, who is the architect of the whole flippin' series and specifically of this episode. And then kaboom, here comes James Conway.
Yeah.
Fresh from the golf course to deliver
That's right.
an amazing interview about literally a legendary episode. It's a really two similar but different perspectives on a really, really, really impactful episode. Really cool.
And Jamie will be back to talk about episode 511, which he also directed.
I don't feel like I'm cool enough to call him Jamie. I know I tried, I think I stumbled.
Same.
Like,
yeah.
I feel like you got to be on the golf course with James L. Conway
It's true.
to
It's true. Yeah.
earn the right to call him Jamie.
Yeah.
And we are not.
And your name needs to be Bobby Singer.
Exactly. And I can't call Bob Bobby.
No,
I
you
can't do
can't call
anything.
Bob Bobby. No. It needs to be called Bobby. Don't call me Bobby Singer.
Exactly. Well, all right. Well, it's going to be great to talk to him 2 episodes from now, and just a great time talking to him today. It was great interviews.
Indeed.
Well, it's that time, Robert. That time, which can only be the time that is mythology.
So the Gore Orphanage, as we learned about in our interview, the building, which is now just ruins, was originally the Swift Mansion. Legend says that many children and adults died when the orphanage burned down, and their spirits still haunt the area.
In reality, the Gore Orphanage never really existed.
What?
There is a Gore Orphanage Road,
Okay.
which the Light of Hope Orphanage was located on, about a mile down the road from the Swift Mansion.
Okay.
But that's not the Gore Orphanage. That's just the Gore Orphanage Road.
Well, but the word gore was used referring to an irregular parcel of land. The word orphanage was added once the Light of Hope Orphanage opened up.
The name of the road, combined with a real fire that took down the Light of Hope Orphanage, plus stories about the Swift family conducting seances after their children died, combined to become the legend of the Gore Orphanage.
You know, now I'm thoroughly confused.
Because Eric Kripke talked about how it was real.
Yeah, he looked it up on Wikipedia. We got real.
He said
and
he used
now
to trick or treat there.
I don't even know what the truth is anymore. Well, it's a story.
It is a story.
It may or may
One
not be
that
true.
Will live in infamy as either the truth and or a lie. All right.
Fun fact time.
Fun fact. We like our facts and we like them fun like these facts. Go.
In reality, the first supernatural convention held was Winchester Con in Nashville in October 2006.
Nashville.
Oh, boy.
You might not know this, Robert, but I'm from Nashville.
Yeah, I heard. Asylum 2007 in England was the first convention attended by actors from the show. Wait a minute. So Winchester Con did not involve any of the actors from Supernatural.
I guess it was a gun show.
Yeah, I guess so.
That makes sense.
Speaking of gun show, you've been over here lately?
Oh my God, Rob's hitting on me. This episode was nominated for a GLAAD Media Award in the Outstanding Individual Episode in a Series Without a Regular LGBT Character category in 2010.
That's amazing.
I wanted to say Q there. Like, I'm so used to saying those letters with the Q at the end, but I probably wasn't the title at the time.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Man, oh man, oh man.
Dude, great episode. A lot going on.
A lot of good stuff.
Great episodes back to back. Really good ones. Yeah, man. I just thought it was great. And having Kripke on for 2 interviews back to back, I mean, that's just a rarity and a treat. Good work, Robert, on your episode. It's really good.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard. I appreciate that. I know that comes from the heart.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we will see you at the next one. Let's keep this fun train going.
Let's do it. It's season 5. It's still cruising and still awesome.
Still awesome. Still cruising. Tell your friends about our podcast, won't you?
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time. This episode of Supernatural features Jared Padalecki as Sam Winchester and Jensen Ackles as Dean Winchester.
Guest stars include Rob Benedict, Emily Perkins, Devin Rattray, Ernie Grunwald, and Crystal Lowe.
The Real Ghostbusters was written by Eric Kripke, story by Nancy Weiner, and directed by Jim Conway.
Editing by Nicole Baer. Music by Christopher Leonards.
Executive produced by Eric Kripke and Robert Singer.
This episode originally aired on November 12th, 2009.
This episode of Supernatural Then and Now was hosted and executive produced by Richard Spade Jr. and Rob Benedict.
Produced by Stephen Hine, written by Stephen Hine and Haida Holscher.
And edited and associate produced by Trey Booty. Music provided by Tim Wynn.
The episode was recorded with the help of Sonic Fuel Studios.
This podcast is from Story Mill Media.
Follow the podcast on Instagram and Twitter, why don't you, at SPN Then and Now.
And become a member of the podcast at www.patreon.com/SPN Then and Now.
Yeah, my daycare was Murder Daycare, and it was just a guy. It was Evelyn Murder, and
Yeah,
it was
her name.
She was delightful. She was so warm, lovely woman, Evelyn Murder.
Are you making this up, or is that real?
yeah. I'm
Oh,
totally
because dude, that was
She's
so
like-
legit that I'm like,
She's
wait
like,
a
it's
minute.
pronounced murder. I'm going to give it a Jesus.
What?
Did Jesus have a beard? Yeah, Jesus had a
Oh,
beard.
man. Yikes.
Why is that a
I mean,
yikes?
I would think you would know a little bit about the Bible.
Barnes and Damien. So Barnes, or as Steve likes to call him, Bonrays.
Oh, and also, I'm sure that's how maybe it's spelled, but typically I see Damien with an A, but this is like the Canadian spelling. Damien.
Damien.
Barn raising Damien.
Damien.
Biddle-dee-bop-bee-bop. Beep-a-dee-ba-dee-ba-dee-boop.
That's right.
Ba-ba-dee-bop-bee-bop. Ghostbuster.
That's right.
Dee-ba-dee-ba-doo-bop.
No, we got it. We get it. We get it.
Story Mill Media.
Nowadays, trends and news cycles change faster than we can blink. But there are some things that withstand the test of time. And if you're looking for a connection to something timeless, and maybe also a glimpse of life at a slower pace, I believe everyone can relate to the very human experiences explored in Jane Austen's novels. And that's where I come in. My name is Alison Larkin. I'm a writer, comedian, and narrator and host of the Jane Austen podcast with Alison Larkin. I spent a lot of my childhood in the part of England where Jane Austen lived and wrote, and now that I live in the States, nothing gives me a sense of homecoming quite like narrating her books. On this show, you'll listen to award-winning narration. I'll give myself a pat on the back for that. As well as conversations with actors, writers, and other fascinating people who all share a passionate love for Jane Austen. So please, join me as we embark on a wonderful journey through Jane Austen's work. Be sure to listen and subscribe to the Jane Austen podcast with Alison Larkin, wherever you get your podcasts.